I appeal to my aggrieved supporters and right-taking Igbos to remain calm in the interest of our collective will and patriotism.
All right, it's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And Olamide, as well as Nelson, is standing by to tell us what's on the front pages this morning. Olamide.
Right, good morning to you, Veronica and Ibrahim. Interesting stories we have on the front pages of the newspapers this morning. And of course, top on that list is, the removal of the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Joining me this morning to analyze the newspaper is, of course, Nelson Ita. Good morning, Nelson.
Hello, Lamide. Good morning. And I wish I could say good morning to Veronica and Ibrahim there, but, I'm sure they can hear me. Good morning to you out there.
Right. I'm sure you're not really, surprised about some of the stories that you're seeing here this morning. Just yesterday, we saw, the impeachment of the Speaker, and we've seen a whole lot of reactions to
sometimes
that.
I always wonder why impeachment happens, just like
Very
that.
quick.
From the reports, in fact, one of our senior reporters, Doja Salami, had some issues entering into the Lagos State House of Assembly,
yes,
to file an appropriate report. So I wonder why sometimes these things happen with some level of secrecy and spontaneity. I wish that kind of spontaneity is applied to, making laws and policies that works for Nigerians and Lagosians as a whole, So that's what beats my imagination sometimes.
Right, and when you look at the front page of the Salient Times, saying why we impeached Obasa, Lagos lawmakers list ex-speakers many sins. Interesting. Mojisola Miranda emerges as the first female speaker, and detained Obasa supporters sing On Your Mandate song in a police van. That's, very, interesting. I think Adidoja actually tried to speak with some of them, but she was restricted. Also on the Hope newspaper, the Lagos 4th-term Speaker Obasa impeached. Miranda takes over. The ex-speaker has been accused of gross misconduct and abuse of office. And this heat also, affected the House clerk, Onofeko, who also gets the boot.
Exactly. But, the high points for me of this whole impeachment is the emergence of Princess Mojisola Meranda as the first female speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. I think for me it's long overdue that Lagos, as might I use the phrase, a political pace setter in Nigeria, would have had the opportunity to have a female, to sit there as a speaker, maybe also as a governor.
We're looking forward to that. Of course, it's a win for the women. I mean, for Lagos, it's long overdue, like you said.
Absolutely.
And looking at some of the controversies that have, trailed the removal of the speaker, some of them said, it was removed in absentia. There was a lot of security presence.
Alleged financial misappropriation.
And let's not forget he has...
to meetings, high-handedness with fellow members of the State House of Assembly. He had a lot of misconduct, allegedly, around him. And so, according to them, it was time for him to leave the seat. And
for the high-handedness, some are saying because he had stayed there for far too long. The last speaker, Ikuforiji, that's about 3 terms. That's about 12 years or almost 12
put
years.
Together for one man
so,
to be the
well, I
the
think he was looking for the next thing. So many persons are saying perhaps because of, the recent, controversies around him on social media about his ambition. Oh, well, it is a democracy and then you should be allowed to, express your opinion, but perhaps it should be in a better way. You should be able to communicate in, a better way. But let's look at, the Blueprint newspaper.
Well, I wanted to say something about that, but it's okay. Again, the Blueprint is still on that, how Lagos State Assembly ousted Nigeria's longest, I like the way the Blueprint put it, serving Speaker Obasa. And also on the platforms, it said how 2027 ambition alleged 17 billion gate scandal and other costs Obasa speakership seat. Might we say that maybe a person shouldn't have the privilege or the opportunity to sit on the political chair for that longer time before your head can't be past your shoulder?
That's not fair. That's not fair. I believe that, you know, he was, as every other individual, was looking for the next big thing. Yeah. When you overstay your welcome in a particular place, go. You feel it's time to go.
But I also feel that there were other persons in the House who probably wanted to be the speaker as well.
Right.
I mean, from some
it's very shocking. About 90% of, you know,
unanimously
lawmakers, unanimously, and even the 10%, some will say some of them were not even, you know, around or available at that point. 90%, everyone agrees that it should go. Yeah. This is, you know, a remarkable difference. It's a lot. Yeah. And let's not forget his EFCC case, misappropriation. It still has a pending case, and he's probably not in the country to, you know, answer to that. But it's a democracy, of course. When you hold a political office, you must also give an account when you are done. And so going back to the EFCC, of course, you know, to explain some of the things that, you know, he has done.
We'll look forward to see what the EFCC will do about that matter and how that this will shape the life of the Lagos State House of Assembly under the leadership of Princess Mojisola
Meranda, the first female speaker. And that will be matters. Right, and that will be on, you know, economy. The Nation newspaper, the big story here says how federal government plans to raise 36.35 trillion naira revenue. That's by Bagudu. And the next should be Nigerian News Direct. The National Assembly is probing 4 trillion naira revenue shortfall due to waivers, threatens to cut JAMB funding over 1.1 billion naira spent on meals, 850 million to kill mosquitoes. You know, this 36.35 trillion revenue tag to be raised by the Minister of Budget and Planning, Bagudu, who was the former governor of Kebbi State. For me, it's a tall order. I'm wondering how the federal government will be able to do that, you know, in one fell swoop. But if you open the Nation newspaper, you probably see the breakdown of how the minister plans to bring this into being. But frankly speaking, in this country, we need big money to do big things. to run some things. JAMB funding, over 1.1 billion spent on meals, 850 million to kill mosquitoes.
That's according to the platform, right?
Well, that's even on Nigerian News Direct. A lot of newspapers have
and Senator
that
Shomole had to prove that to be like, yo, come and explain exactly. Please,
what exactly you need 1.1 billion for meals, 850. Perhaps I should.
How much do you buy insecticide to kill mosquitoes in your house? I'm just wondering.
850 million.
Except this one is to kill mosquitoes in the whole country.
Perhaps for the whole country, because well, as long as they have, you know, an explanation for this, and it will, of course, you know, be provided for the needs of, you know, Nigerian students, we should also give them that, you know, privilege to come out to explain.
Well, they said mosquito control and cleaning. Again, that probably involves mosquito nets, you know, provision of some of that, maybe for like you said, students in dormitory houses and all of that. But this was specifically JAMB. I wonder if it is for JAMB centers.
Well, I think it should include the JAMB centers. But of course, for those who are interested in this story, you can, you know, pick up some of these newspapers to look at them. Nigerian News Direct is also still, you know, talking about the impeachment of the speaker and also the election of a new
Speaker of the House.
Speaker. Yeah. And still on the Nigerian News Direct, insecurity hindering the repair of Shiroro Kaduna transmission line. We've seen the Minister of Parliament on this, that, you know, insecurity is another big issue affecting the power sector. Absolutely. As against what, you know, many persons think.
I have a pending report to deliver on you know, the incessant power failure in the country, and that is one of my key look I want to focus on, to speak with the minister, you know, to get to know exactly what are the issues around GENCOs and DISCOs, and like we just saw the report by TJSU this morning, you know, where the minister was talking about, or he's talking about the fact that there are a lot of insecurity around power infrastructure, where vandals vandalize some of this, you know, infrastructure, thereby leading to what we now know every other day as failure or power grid failure
so
that
I
has
think,
become normal in the country.
Well, there's
shouldn't be
an extension
so,
of this on Daily Independent. What do you have there on Daily Independent?
Well, it says it's 17 months after the federal government yet to list any state-owned koi on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And we're waiting for that to happen because this is, long overdue, as it were. And so by now, I think we should do that. But we have to give kudos to, for example, Akwa Ibom State, Ibom Air has been listed, and so maybe we should have more of that from various states as well. Again, in leadership, knocks over planned NAS zonal offices. Well, this is a little bit very political. Knocking planned zonal officers, or rather offices. I think each legislator, both from the Senate and the National House of Representatives, each have their individual, offices in the various zones. So why would they need to have, in quote, a formal office, as it were? I mean, they operate from somewhere, so I mean, if the idea is meeting the needs of your constituents, would you need a formal setting to do that? Would you do so?
Perhaps you will need a formal setting, of course, to also listen to the needs of the people, where people can walk into, discuss with you and all of that.
Well, that doesn't need a special budget for that. Just fix a place, fix something. You have money already.
That is what we call planning. I mean, there should be planning for everything, and we should be included in the budget, irrespective of the amount.
Which then falls around the conversation of cutting the cost of governance. There's money already. If you can be judicious with it, you'd still be able to build something and then have people come meet you where you are.
So you're saying that there is no need for a separate budget on that. They should be able to take that from what they have on ground.
Well, that's why...
You're saying the lawmakers are not judicious.
That's why Nigerians are knocking that plan, because it looks like a waste of money.
Right, very quickly, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. The big story here says, USSD codes may become inactive in 14 days over banks' 250 billion naira debt. And there is a whole lot of reaction to that.
I'm sighing on that, Mide, because, each time you send an SMS or a transaction on your account, there are several deductions that happens. And then if NAS is saying, hey, yo, come tell us exactly what's going on here, they should. Because some of those charges are absolutely relevant. 250
billion naira debt. I believe that I'm just hoping this is not going to fall back on Nigerians, because the fee for these USSD codes has even been removed. Most times when you need to, do a transaction and all of that, it's been removed. And so where is this money exactly
going to?
And I'm hoping that it's not going to fall back on Nigerians to have to, bear the cost of that. Let's go to Daily Times.
Yeah.
The federal government plans to abolish TET fund, threat to tertiary. That's ASU reporting that there, and NAS is also querying MDAs over 4 trillion naira waiver grants. But that story on education, ASU is only alleging, saying that the federal government, I've not seen the federal government actually come out
to say they want to abolish TET fund.
They are going to abolish TET fund. When you go to most of these universities,
you see different buildings and infrastructure, labeled TET fund. Right.
And then we see that most of the students take advantage of this, even hostels, free hostels for students. And so I'm trying to understand what angle ASU is trying to
come out from,
the federal government planning to abolish TET fund. But the TET fund that we see today, most students, especially students that cannot afford hostels, cannot afford possibly, classes and all of that, other infrastructural benefits within the school, have been taking advantage of it, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, TET fund, apart from, the hostels you mentioned as well, they are involved in building infrastructures. For instance, the Senate building, the laboratories for different units and departments in the school, which is very important. Now, TET fund itself was created with the idea, of helping to ameliorate, if I would use a phrase, some of the financial and infrastructural dilapidation or needs of the universities. And so if which is not the case as it were now, because this is allegedly, if the federal government is thinking of knocking that out, then again, education being a ministry of itself, the minister and the ministry probably has another plan, if this is even the case, has another plan of funding the universities. And we've been hearing conversations around universities generating their own funds as well within the house. Maybe that's also one way to go. However, we are still crying that the universities are still underfunded. We need a lot of money to raise up the infrastructural demands of our universities. For instance, the laboratories. A lot of things within the university system is still not yet in order. And so we're looking forward to have that come to be. And so the idea of even thinking of raising a TED fund, which is like the go-to money place for the universities, should not even come to be. If there is, then something better should replace it.
Of course, there will be a plan to replace it. But of course, this is ASU just alleged. Perhaps they have heard some information about that. But if we're having the Minister of Education coming out to say this, then there obviously should be a plan in place. If it's not in place, it's going to, be a big deal for some of these universities.
Knowing who ASU is, ASU, they're pretty good at ringing the bell. Like, hey!
Ahead of time.
I mean,
So I think the next paper is This Nigeria. What do you have on This Nigeria?
This Nigeria said, again, on the conversation on the collapse of the grid, this is something that is becoming very, very worrisome. Again, remember, we've been separated into band A, B, and C.
What band?
Oh, I'm A. So frankly speaking, personally in my area, I have a lot of light, but I have to now pay more. What band are you yourself?
Right, I'm on band A. I'm on band A in my own region. So I don't know. It seems that you are. I think you are being biased here. You sound very pompous. But vandalism is a big issue.
Oh no, it is.
I mean, it's not the first time that we've seen the minister come out to talk about this, saying that vendors are taking advantage of the infrastructure that we use for power, and that's against what the federal government is investing daily in the power sector, and what Nigerians are paying. Let's not forget that. It's not commensurate to the power they are getting. It's not equal to what we are getting. We're not getting enough in terms of service delivery. So many persons are saying, if you are going to, fund yourself to be able to afford the band A, I should be able to get at least, enough.
Some percentage of light when I need it. But again, let's not also use, because this area has, some level of maybe 70 or 80 or thereabout power, that you think that is enough yardstick to measure that the entire country has power. That might not always be the case, frankly.
Well, the security concern here, the minister is saying that heavily armed terrorists, bandits, have been hindering effort to restore the electricity. And not only are they vandalizing it, we still have terrorists also trying to, take advantage of the system, and they're also hindering effort to even restore electricity to that region. And so this brings up the question of what exactly are they trying to gain by, putting the whole country in darkness? Right. You just, get information that the grid has collapsed. Nigerians are no longer shocked about it. Once the grid collapses, you just, look for an alternative in that.
Which shouldn't be the case, frankly. There's a very disturbing story here on First News. Boko Haram disturbing tactics, impregnating women to raise new generation of fighters. Olamide, that's very disturbing, but I don't know what to say about this. Impregnating women to raise new fighters?
And so we have a large security problem on our hands, but we've seen the army try their best to, address this. Houses where, that's IDP camps, those are places where these people go to, employ or, recruit these people. Yeah. And so it's a very big issue, impregnating women to raise another. And, the issue we are having is also an ideology problem. Absolutely. Some extremists take advantage of, a particular religion to, educate these people wrongly. And that's why they've said every time religious leaders have a role to play. Yeah. Because it's very difficult to curtail extremism. Very, very difficult to curtail an ideology that has been there from childhood. It's going to be very difficult. And so, now that we're also fighting physically with our soldiers, the Nigerian army trying their best, we also need to fight this ideology. We need to fight this extremism.
And look, the point I'm trying to raise here again is they are very strategic because these are supposedly soft targets. You will not, the military or any other uniform agency will not go killing pregnant women. And so this is a very smart strategy by Boko Haram and any other insurgent and terrorist groups out there trying to, I mean, what a strategy. That for me is a no-go area. You shouldn't do that.
I mean, if we were going to even do this the other way, having people to fight for the country that way, you will see the number of people that we will get.
Which then brings us to the fact that the uniform agencies have to look at recruiting large, en masse. We need to open the borders, in quote, borders or the door, to recruit a lot of men into the uniform, into the army, into the police, and so on and forth, so that we can have enough men to tackle this upcoming menace, because this is a time bomb waiting to explode.
I love that point. It's very good, because I want to believe that as you are saying this, you're also, going to take you're going to be at the forefront of this conversation, joining the army and all of that. But very quickly,
I'll take you along.
Let's go to the New Telegraph, and it's still on this Boko Haram situation. Over 60,000 surrendered Boko Haram members are children.
Well,
what went wrong? They taught them. They're trying to change their ideology negatively towards the country, and then they're surrendering. I'm trying to understand how that's
again, remember, these are children. Like you used the phrase earlier on, ideology. They've been brainwashed to believe in and thinking that carrying arms against the state and other Nigerians is the way to go. If by any window of help they are able to see the light of truth, there's nothing wrong in them returning back to order. And so I commend them for coming back to their senses and surrendering. However, we need to do a little bit more beyond just getting them to surrender, to rehabilitating them and rejoining them back into the society so that they can become useful not only to themselves but to the rest of the country.
Well, I mean, I don't think rehabilitation is a new thing, especially for those who have surrendered. We've seen, videos. Reporters there have also, been giving us updates as to how this rehabilitation process has been going. Very shocking. They say many insurgents were not actually willing participants. And so it also raises questions about how much of influence terrorists have on some of these villages. Perhaps these people are being forced to carry arms. These people are being forced, not necessarily ideology or extremism, are being forced due to the terrain.
I've been to the north quite a number of times on different, documentary reports, and you get to see these children. They live in I don't want to use a phrase, but they live in a very obscure environment, and so it's pretty easy to coy them with 5,000 naira, for instance. The smallest amount of money can get them to join that group. And so this is also part of why not just the federal government, we need state governors and also down to legislatures who represent these constituencies and state house of assembly who also, I mean, each constituency has a different cadre of representative up onto the federal government, and so we need them to go back home and fix your houses so that Boko Haram will not get them to get
key concerns that you've raised this morning. Of course, we expect that those in charge will also,
I wanted to bring in a little bit of sports.
Well, because of our time, I think we will do that tomorrow. We will focus more on
you owe me something for that now, you know that.
Right, and that's it on the newspaper review this morning. Over to you, Veronica and Ibrahim.
Thank you, Olamide. It's been an interesting conversation you guys had there with regards to the newspaper headlines. Now, still